Well, for a bit more on this, joining us live now is Daniel Shaw. He's Professor of Latin American and Caribbean Studies at the City University of New York. Daniel, thanks for joining us. Let's start here. As Murad just said there, the second Vice President of the Bolivian Senate, Janine Áñez, has become interim president. What do we know about her? What actions might she take now?
Well, first, I think it's very important to establish that Evo and Álvaro Garcia have not resigned in any type of voluntary way. This is a coup d'etat. This is a violent coup d'etat. This is a victory for neoliberalism, for the forces in Bolivia who want to push back this agenda that has favored the campesinos, the poor, the workers. So this quote-unquote new president, it remains to be seen, but it sure seems like she will uphold the agenda of the rich, of those forces based in Santa Cruz. As we know, Bolivia is a very divided country, racially and class-wise. And as Evo says, the struggle will continue.
Let's talk a little bit more about those kind of macro things going on in Latin America, because we've seen a lot of unrest recently in other countries as well. Morales was one of the leaders of the so-called pink tide of socialist sort of leaders who came to power in the previous decades. Does that mean, if we're seeing he's sort of being pushed out of power, that there's more of a swing towards the right and conservatism within Latin American countries, and more specifically Bolivia?
It is very concerning for the entire continent, or La Patria Grande, Simón Bolívar's dream of one giant homeland. Because what happens in Bolivia affects Argentina, what happens in Argentina affects Brazil and Mexico, and so on and so forth. We've seen a major victory with López Obrador in Mexico, a defeat for neoliberalism. In local elections, we saw a defeat of the Uribe agenda, Uribismo. In Colombia, we just saw defeated in Argentina, but this is certainly a concerning step back in Bolivia. Many analysts thought Bolivia was a stronghold of these anti-imperialist forces because of Evo Morales and his leadership, and seemingly now there's a crisis for sure.
You called it yourself a coup there, and Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro has also condemned what he calls a coup against Morales. He's been under pressure himself in the past year. Do you think this situation could affect Venezuela as well? Certainly,
that is what the United States and all the forces of neoliberalism would like. They've done everything since 1998 to suffocate and isolate Venezuela, and of course Cuba since 1959. And I think Evo Morales said it best. His true sin is that he's indigenous. His true sin is that he represents the poorest sectors of Bolivia. His true sin is that he dared to step on the big toes of the robber barons in Santa Cruz, who are descendants of the Spanish colonizers, who come from a wealthier background. As we know, there was a secessionist movement in Santa Cruz where they weren't flying the red, yellow, and green flag of Bolivia. They were flying their green and white regional flag. So these forces have been in motion for many years. And this is not about a fourth term limit. This is not about any elections. This is about a battle for who will control the Bolivian state.
We are getting a full spectrum of views across this tonight. Daniel Shaw, Professor of Latin American and Caribbean Studies at the City University of New York, thanks for your time.
Thank you.